Okay, you can begin.
All right. Good evening, everyone. We are Group 8, and we are going to be taking you through vision and strategic direction. The members of our group are Abigail Leque, Sian Gomes, and myself, Aaliyah Clark. Next slide, please. Right. So I think we skipped one, but that's okay. I'll just tell you all which chapter we have. We have chapter 13 in the book The Leadership Experience by Richard L. Daft, and the chapter is entitled Creating Vision and Strategic Direction. Next, please. All right, so we have 6 main headings in this chapter. I will take you through the first 2, which are strategic leadership and leadership vision. Diane will take you through mission and strategy in action, and Abigail has sent her parts for the leader's contribution and the leader's impact. Right. So this is a quote here from Olson and Simmerson's 2015 book, Leading with Strategic Thinking. And it's just something to keep in mind and help us open up our understandings as we go into this chapter. So strategic leadership involves seeing patterns, making choices, and managing risk. So let's get started. So strategic leadership, here I have ability, responsibility, and relationships. And what we will be discussing is the leader's role in the future of an organization. Leaders are the ones who establish the organization's direction through vision and strategy. And this vision that we're going to be talking about is born with leaders, and this is why they are so influential in the mapping and execution of said organization's future. So the choices and changes that leaders implement could chart the way for development and superior organizational performance towards a future everyone can believe in and work to achieve. So, what is it? Well, by definition, strategic leadership is the ability to anticipate and envision the future, maintain flexibility, think strategically, and work with others to initiate changes that will create a competitive advantage for the organization in the future. In essence, this means predicting and making choices about the future while working with others to initiate strategic changes that will allow the organization to thrive in the long term. Next slide, please. So let's talk ability. In order to best practice strategic leadership, the possession and continuous development of certain abilities is required of the leader. These skills include anticipation and the ability to envision the future, maintenance of flexibility, and a strong sense of strategic understanding. As we can understand, each of these specifications work in tandem with one another. From picturing a clear image of what the future's possibilities may hold for the organization, to being able to flexibly move around in that wiggle room and have bendable specifics in your plan that might be willing to be compromised and adapted as that big picture formulates. And then finally, executing it in a methodical way, having that methodical approach based on the understanding of the context and the processes that would be necessary. It's important to note that while all of these abilities are necessary based on the fast paced, ever changing nature of our world, no two leaders would see the information that they're presented with in the same way or make the same choices. Next slide, please. So, the aforementioned abilities that we just discussed would be used to carry out the responsibilities that are associated with the strategic leadership process. Now, these are one, understanding environmental complexities, which means knowing your organizational goals and how changes in the landscape could negatively or positively affect your business. And because a lot of the time in our fast changing world, we could be met with an overload of ambiguous information, it's very important that leaders take the time to analyze and decipher those complexities in order to get the best big picture perspective possible. The next one carries on to the second point. This carries on to the next point, which talks about upholding that balance between internal organizational issues, that is day to day, and the external big picture forward propelling strategy. The leader's responsibility also lies in ensuring that the organization's vision and mission are always in sight and at the forefront of activity. This is so that it could continue to progress and develop in a clearly defined direction. This development often comes through the practice and implementation of execution, which falls under the alignment of the big picture strategy and is observed on more of a current and frequent basis, which would be the executables. Next slide, please. So here we're going to just pause for a pause to understand why all of these responsibilities and the abilities that I've just thrown at you, why all of these steps are important. Well, imagine you're operating a small grocery out of your home. Every day, something minor goes wrong. But instead of coming up with a 5-year long-term plan to contend with all of your grocery stresses in one go, you deal with problems as they pop up. So every day is hectic and you're spinning top in mud. Now, we know this is not sustainable organizationally, nor is it going to be very encouraging for your employees or customers who probably are as stressed as you are, but are also looking to you for direction and a much more solid contingency plan to avoid or at least minimize the occurrences from repeating in the future. Now, an awareness and an understanding of your groceries environment and position, as well as a clearly defined vision and mission for its future, while they may not immediately eliminate the chaos of your daily operations, eventually, as you begin to execute the strategies you outlined for yourself, the grocery would have a much clearer sense of direction and would experience progressive development through the systematic addressal of the issues we were experiencing. So, if per se, in layman's terms, you always have customers complaining about nowhere to park, instead of the short-term thing, which might be running across the road to beg the neighbor to go out so your customers could park in their driveway, you could make plans towards getting a proper car park space rented and maybe in the meantime work out a temporary car park tenancy agreement with that same neighbor. You're not following me, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Now, this is just an example to bring it down into layman's terms and something that we all could relate to and understand. But as we now understand, each of these responsibilities outlined in the text are necessary and operate at different levels in a sort of hierarchy system. Next slide, please. So here's our system. And as we discussed, strategic leadership is responsible for the relationship of the external environment to choices about vision, mission, strategy, and how they are all implemented. So, like the building blocks on your left, we see that each level in this relationship supports and reinforces the one above it. So, the triangle on the right that we're looking at is called the strategic leadership. With a clearly outlined vision at the top, we can see the overall aspiration for the future. Directly beneath it, the vision works in tandem with the company's mission, which is the company's core values, purpose, and reason for existence. The third level is strategy, where we see the actual direction for how we plan to translate the vision into action. And on this level, this is where we can observe the development of specific mechanisms and tactics to help the organization hit the targets and achieve its goals. And finally, down at the bottom, we have execution. And this is where we would see the strategic intentions actually materialize and occur. Next slide, please. So these relationships and the hierarchy in general bring order and organization. And now that we understand the structure behind the hierarchy, we could go into depth and discuss each of the pyramid's elements. Next slide. Right. So we're going to begin with vision. General context, it contains more meaning than simply just a dream. So let's get into it. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the presentation anymore. Are you seeing it still?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're kind of losing your audio a little bit. I figured
Yeah.
your Wi-Fi giving you some problems.
Yeah, I think it might be the Wi-Fi. I'm sorry about that. Just let me know if I. Just let me see if I could switch it quickly. Um, One second. Hello, you're not hearing me?
Yeah, hear you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Tian, can I just please go back to the slide with the eyes? Thank you. All right, I can't see because the Wi-Fi bandwidth is very low, but I will just try and continue by pacing myself. So I was saying that an organization's vision is an ambitious view of the future that everyone involved can believe in. And this may sometimes be a goal or even a set of occurrences that can realistically be achieved and aspired to. The most important factor is that the vision offers a future that is intrinsically better than that which exists at the present moment. So, for organizations, a vision is an attractive idea that is credible, yet not too readily attainable. As in, it's not today, Friday, but tomorrow, Saturday. Vision encapsulates the foreseeable future. Um, Now we should be on formatting a vision. So, note visions look the same. Some companies have visions that are brief, compelling, and slogan-like. These visions are formatted in such a way that they can be easily communicated to and understood by everyone else in the organization. Other times, though, leaders use less concise vision statements in order to paint an enriched and more compelling picture of where the organization wants to go. The value of a vision lies in its ability to inspire and communicate the leader's goals for the future effectively. Next slide, please. Right. Visions are based in the current reality, but they are concerned with a future that is substantially different from the status quo, i.e., what is happening right now. Thus, they provide a link between today and tomorrow and create a sort of path by which a leader takes the group or organization to the next level. Well-constructed visions energize and motivate employees towards the future. The vision provides meaning for people's work and sets a standard of excellence and integrity in the organization. Strong, inspiring vision statements have been associated with higher organizational performance and even greater employee motivation and satisfaction. And this is because clearly defined, compelling visions that challenge the company to meet higher progressive standards encourage morale, and they aid in elements of transformational leadership that we would have covered in the chapter before this one. And that would just be in instilling that sense of optimism and confidence in a better future. Next slide, please. And the science backs this, where we see a 2018 study that investigated the effect of mission and vision on organizational performance within private universities in Kenya. And this study concluded that, quote, for every 1 unit change in an organization's mission and vision, organizational performance increases by 0.867%, hence implying that a positive impact of organization's mission and vision on organizational performance, unquote. And this is why it's so important, as Jeff Bezos stated here, that the vision be upheld as the guiding principle for every other element on our strategic leadership hierarchy. So, as Jeff said, we are stubborn on vision, we are flexible on details, and it's bringing back up that flexibility that I talked about just before. Next slide, please. Truly excellent vision garners clarity in direction, commitment to the common betterment of the organization, and inspires imagination of a brighter future and creativity in an adapting world. And in order to elicit such values, vision is associated with 5 core themes. So could you all tell me what you think some of the themes that vision runs along those lines? Could you tell me what you think some of those themes may be or what they would relate to? Alrighty. I will move on and I will let you know what the themes are. So the 5 themes, Kareem, could you tell me any of the themes? All right, I'm going to tell you the 5 common themes. I cannot see the presentation, but we're going through. So the 5 themes are these that I'm going to outline are the ones that are most common to powerful and effective visions. So the first one would be a broad, widely shared appeal. Now, this is where the ideal vision would be identified as taking into consideration the organization as a whole. So not concerned only with a single leader or even a top leadership team. This broad vision incentivizes and motivates people to work together towards the common goal, while still allowing each individual to act independently but in the same direction. So kind of like tires on a car. They roll independently but in the same direction most times. Now, the next theme would be that visions often also help organizations deal with change. And as we have all experienced, drastic change can be frightening, but a clear sense of direction and vision often helps people to face the difficulties and uncertainties involved in the process of change. Under a guiding vision, everyday decisions and actions throughout the organization act as progressive responses to current problems and challenges, which eventually propel the organization forward. Visions also encourage faith and hope for the future by using an emotional appeal to our fundamental human needs and desires. And these needs and desires include feeling important and useful and believing that we can make a real difference in the world. Impactful, well-articulated visions help people to believe and invest in a future that they cannot immediately see. Visions also reflect high ideals by portraying an uplifting and prosperous future. This has the power to inspire and, again, energize stakeholders towards working in that common direction. And the final theme of visions is that they define both the organization's destination and the journey. Visions and long-term plans for the future often include specific outcomes that the organization wants to achieve. And this will be incorporating the underlying values and the necessary steps that will help the organization to get there. A good vision includes both the desired future outcomes and the underlying values that set the rules for achieving them. Next slide, please. Now, based on everything we've discussed relating to vision, I just want to touch on something to keep in mind. Because visions work on multiple levels of an organization, members at any tier can come up with and implement visions for their own jurisdictions. The best organizational visions, though, are able to grow and change over time. And as such, we would see that in innovative companies, every group or department on any level may create its own vision as long as the vision is in line with the overall overarching company's direction. And when every person involved understands and embraces a vision, the organization is described as self-adapting. So, although each individual acts independently, everyone works in the same direction. Another term for this self-adapting is called the principle of self-reference, which by definition means or states that each element in a system will serve the goals of the entire system when the elements are imprinted with an understanding of the whole. So that just means, in fancy words, when everyone understands and is inspired by the vision, in their individual ways, they can work together towards that common goal in a much more energized and progressive way. Thus, the vision serves to direct and control people for the overall benefit of both themselves and the organization on a whole. Next slide, please. Right. So the moral of this entire story lies in the fact that shared vision is the best vision. In order for vision to be effective, it has to be ingrained or accepted and inspiring to those who would need to be working under it and working towards it. So in order to effectively develop that shared vision, leaders often would need to share their personal visions with others and encourage them to express their dreams for the future. This kind of exchange and this symbiotic kind of relationship would require openness, good listening skills, and the courage to connect on an emotional level on both the leader's side as well as those under them. A leader's ultimate responsibility is being in touch with the hopes and the dreams that drive employees and finding areas of common ground that they might be able to link personal dreams with to a shared goal for the entire organization. And I think that is it for me. Sian, take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Sian Gomes, and we will be moving on to the next section of our presentation, which is mission. So let's get started. So we just learned all about vision, but it is very common for vision and mission to be used interchangeably. It is important that we understand that an organization's mission is not the same thing as an organization's vision. The mission is the organization's core purpose and reason for existence, whereas vision is an ambitious desire for the future. Essentially, a mission is what the organization stands for in a larger sense. So what exactly is it? Like, how do we break it down so that we can formulate a mission for ourselves? Simply put, a mission statement explains as an organization who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. The mission defines the enduring character or spiritual DNA of the organization and can be used as a framework for employees to find meaning in their work. It serves as the glue that holds the organization together in times of change and guides strategic choices and decisions about the future. So while the moving parts of an organization are always evolving and changing, your mission is the glue that holds everything together. So the mission stated when you're, say, an affordable neighborhood bakery should still guide you when you become a nationwide franchise. So let's break down a mission statement. Now, remember, we're looking to grasp three things from this statement: who they are, what they do, and who they do it for. So let's see. We first have to give everyone. Now, giving everyone, Twitter is a massive social network platform with 321 million users, and it is available for free on any app store. So anyone with a phone and an available app store can download Twitter. Therefore, it is technically for everyone. So that's the who they do it for. Then we have the power to create and share ideas and information. The platform allows users to consume, create, distribute, and discover content. It has become a self-expression tool that for many people use to share their ideas and opinions in public. So that's the what they do. Instantly, without barriers, Twitter is what you would call, or they claim to be, a democratized content creation and distribution. So what we garner from this is that Twitter claims to be a network that allows people to have conversation in real time with just the instance of pressing send. So we've had the whole statement and it's just a few words, but what we got from that is who they do it for, what they do, and who they are in the whole realm of this. We got what Twitter is, who they do it for, and what they actually do. So moving on, the mission should make up two critical parts: the core values and the core purpose. Your core values are your organization's deepest beliefs and commitments. It's what the company stands for beyond just making money. Core values help companies determine if they're on the right path and fulfilling their goals by creating an unwavering guide. Your core purpose is your why. It's the fundamental reason your company exists. Now, it's not about a specific product or service that you offer. It's also not directly related to how you make money. Now, that isn't to say that your financial gain is not important, but they will always be evolving. Therefore, your core purpose is designed to remain constant throughout all those shifting goals. It's what keeps you and your employees on the same page, focused and inspired. Now, there are four basic approaches to framing an organizational purpose that helps people feel like their work is worldwide. So you have discovery, which is finding the new. Many people are inspired by the opportunity to find or create something new. So companies like Google and Samsung are always striving to create the next best thing. Innovation is at the core of their brands. Next, we have excellence. In this approach, leaders focus on being the best, both on an individual and organizational level. Excellence is defined by their work itself rather than by how many customers or consumers they have. Companies like Apple are perfect example for this because they want their products to be extremely high quality. But as much as social media leads us to believe that everybody and their mother has a MacBook or an iPhone, they only make up less than 5% of the computer market worldwide. And I mean, realistically, who can afford a $9,000 phone every few years? But Apple isn't interested in making budget phones like, say, Samsung or Huawei or other Android competitors. It's either you can afford the excellence or you can't. The next approach we have is altruism. It's about providing service to others, which is why many nonprofit companies use this approach for their purpose. People feel good when they are doing something to help others or make their communities or the world a better place. So take, for instance, the shoe company Tom's. When someone purchases a shoe, they match that purchase by giving another pair to someone in need. And lastly, we have heroism. So this approach is for companies that like to be strong, aggressive, and effective. With this purpose, they're usually obsessed with winning the market, like how Microsoft and ExxonMobil operate. So let's play a game. It's gonna be guess that company. So we have a few local and international mission statements on the next few slides. And using clues within the statement itself, I'm gonna ask you guys to guess which organization it belongs to. Everybody ready? Just need one person to answer.
Yep.
Ready.
First one, to be our customers' most loved, inviting quick service restaurant experience for the best tasting, freshest in-store prepared chicken, as well as other original, unbeatable foods and beverages. Gonna give you guys a clue, focus on chicken. Any guesses?
That's KFC.
Yes, it is, sir.
Oh my good Lord, that's disgusting.
Super Bowl.
You know what KFC means?
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
No, it means you
Finger
can't
looking
something
good,
cook.
my guy.
All right, next one. Creating value, transforming lives through continuously building the trust and loyalty of our customers, delivering a delightful, pleasurable, and safe shopping experience to all, fostering a mutually beneficial and ethical relationship with our suppliers, caring about our communities and our environment. So this is a lot, but the clue is that it's a local brand. Any takers?
Massey.
Wow, y'all are very good.
That's not true though.
Well, so we do. The game is not to analyze if they
Just poking fun.
if
don't
they
worry.
meet the mission or not. Okay, last one, guys. It's very simple. To bringing the best user experience to customers through innovative hardware, software, and services. This one is an international brand. I mentioned them in one of the previous slides.
Apple.
Yes, it is. All right. So moving on, we are going to strategy in action. For organizations to succeed, they need ways to translate vision, values, and purpose into action. So a strategy can be defined as the general plan of action that describes resource allocation and other activities for dealing with the environment and helping the organization to attain its goals. In formulating said strategies, leaders like to ask questions such as, where is the organization now? Where does the organization want to be? And what changes and trends are occurring in the competitive market? and what courses of action can help them achieve our vision. Developing effective strategy requires actively listening to people both inside and outside of the organization, as well as examining trends and discontinuities in the environment that can be used to gain an edge. So now it seems like a lot, but strategy is actually very simple, as this video on the slide is gonna give us a little preview.
To many people, strategy is a little bit of a mystery. Often we have a sense, in order to know what strategy is, you have to be super senior. If you have a lot of job experience, it seems very complicated. Nonsense. Strategy is simple. It's a plan to create value. The way a company plans to create that value, that's the strategy of the company. Of course, it's natural to look at financials. What are your margins? What's profitability? What's the return on invested capital? And that, of course, shows the result of strategy. It's an endpoint. It's a consequence. It's not actually where we start. Strategy is about looking forward, seeing the future, planning for the future. We want to start with a sense of how much value do we create in the first place. Value for customers, value for employees, and value for suppliers. To many people, strategy is a little bit of a mystery.
Sorry. Okay. So we understand strategy, but where do we go from there? That is when strategic management comes into play. This is a set of decisions and actions used to formulate and implement specific strategies that will achieve a competitively superior fit between the organization and its environment, so as to achieve the goal that they want. So to improve the chances of success, leaders develop strategies that focus on three qualities: core competence, synergy, and value. In core competence, it's something the organization does extremely well in comparison to competitors. So if Apple is making a great iOS, they'll continue to make strategies that build up that high quality iOS system. Synergy is combining the cross-disciplinary efforts and resources to accomplish more collectively than they could individually. So sometimes you see organizations collaborating with other organizations that boost their system of work and boost the other organization's system of work. Value, this is the combination of benefits received and costs paid by the customer. So you always want to ensure that whatever strategies you come up with are giving customers value. So let's put it all together. Here we have a case study about Best Buy Electronics. They were on the brink of bankruptcy because of how they couldn't compete with Amazon when they first came onto the scene. So let's look at the strategies that they used to combat this.
Let's talk about a specific example. You might know Best Buy, the electronics retailer in the United States. And if you go back, say 10 years or so, everybody, including myself, everybody was convinced that Best Buy was going to go out of business. Why? Many other electronics retailers had gone out of business, and with roughly 1,000 stores, it just seemed impossible to compete against Amazon. At one point in time, Best Buy lost $1 billion in a single quarter. And then a new CEO comes in, eventually. And remember, strategy is not complicated. It's all about either increasing willingness to pay or decreasing willingness to sell. And that's exactly what he does. Instead of building big distribution centers, big warehouses from which you ship online, he starts thinking about every store as a warehouse. And they start shipping from each individual store, typically from a store that is just down the road from where you are. We increase willingness to pay by having better shipping times. And then the second idea has to do with the retail store environment. He goes to Microsoft, he goes to Samsung, he goes to Lenovo, and he says, well, you know, you can go down the Apple route and you can build really beautiful freestanding stores at millions and millions of dollars. Or you can have a store in a store inside Best Buy where people are shopping for electronics products in the first place at a fraction of the cost, lowering willingness to sell for the vendors to Best Buy. Now, what does it mean for employees? Instead of selling innumerable products, now I'm dedicated to the store in a store that's the Microsoft store, or the store in a store that is the Sony store. I know so much more about the products I have. I can do a much better job helping customers figure out which products are exactly right for them. My job is easier. I feel more successful. Willingness to sell drops. And if you look at employee engagement surveys at Best Buy, they are at an all-time high after these big changes. So what did Best Buy do? It increased customers' willingness to pay, and we have fewer pricing pressures. Next, they lowered willingness to sell, and costs fall for Best Buy. The middle portion of the value stick, we have less pricing pressure, we have lower costs. Not surprisingly, the company is more profitable. They go from losing $1 billion in a quarter to having a return on invested capital that exceeds 20%. Amazing. Why? Because we started with ideas about how to create value before we thought about how to capture a fraction of the value that we created. Let's talk about a specific example.
So we know about strategies and management of the strategies. Now we need to actually formulate it. And when all your cores are filled, it becomes easier to focus on what you need to do. Because strategy formulation integrates knowledge of environment, vision and mission, core values, and core competence in such a way to achieve synergy and create value for customers. And then boom, there's your strategy. Unfortunately, though, it's not as easy as just writing and hitting all your checkpoints. As we see from this statistic from Cascade Survey, only 10% of organizations surveyed achieve at least 2/3 of their strategy objectives, with 36% achieving between 50 to 67% and 54% achieving less than 50% of their. Coming up with a decent plan that would work if implemented well doesn't automatically mean that your plan is structured in a way to support implementation and that you're actually going to get it done. Good strategic ideas and direction are key, but the hardest part in all of this is turning those ideas into an implementable plan. So next we go to strategic implementation. Strategy implementation is the most important as well as the most difficult part in strategic management, and leaders must carefully and consistently manage the implementation process to achieve the best results. It's basically putting strategy into action, but by adjusting various goals or various parts of the organization and directing resources to accomplish the strategic goals. Leaders make decisions every day, in some large and some small, that support the company strategies that they have decided to embark on. The table that we take completely off of the textbook, but this table shows a model of how leaders make those strategic decisions and what is the ease of implementation. So the two dimensions we have here are if its impact is going to be high or if its impact is going to be low, and then how easy is it or how hard is it is going to be to implement this specific strategy. So We have high impact and hard to implement. That means major changes, but with the potential for high payoff. Then we have high impact, easy to implement. This is simple changes that will have a high strategic impact. Low impact, hard to implement, difficult changes with little to no potential payoff. That is one section that you need to stay away from because it makes no sense in the long run. Then we have low impact, easy to implement. This is incremental improvements or small wins. So before we move on to the next section of the presentation, does anyone have any questions from the two previous sections for me and Aaliyah? No, yes. Going once, going twice. I'll take that as no questions. So unfortunately, Abigail is not here today, but she left us with her voice. So just gonna play.
Hi, good day everyone. My name is Abigail Leakwe, and this will be my part of the presentation. First, we'll start off with the leader's contribution, inspiring and motivating individuals. The measure of a leader is not the number of people who serve him, but the number of people he serves. A quote from John C. Maxwell. Management is about persuading people to do things they do not want to do, while leadership is about inspiring people to do things they never thought they could. Leaders contribute so many things to their teams. They contribute so much more than guidance. They are responsible for establishing direction to vision and strategy, providing a clear path and goal for their teams, helping and overcoming obstacles along the way. As previously stated, leaders are here to inspire. Hopes and dreams of the future are what keeps people moving forward. People tend to work harder and at their best when they know there is something to work for or work towards. For leaders to make a real difference, they have to link those dreams with strategic actions. By doing so, vision has to be translated into specific goals, objections, and plans so that employees know how to move toward the desired future. This is a very important and vital part of an organization. A great leader, because when leadership fails to provide direction, organizations flounder. Let's talk. In your own words, what is your definition of a leader's contribution? What makes a leader stand out to you?
So feel free, anybody, to give your thoughts and opinions about what a leader's contribution is or what makes a leader stand out to you. Anybody?
Or was it the ability to take control of situations or stuff like that?
No, well, it's just in your own words, what do you think is the definition of a leader's contribution?
I legit don't know.
We could skip that one. What makes a leader stand out to you, like in your own life? If
Like,
you are in
yeah,
an organization.
But it's not to me about it. Like, that person go there way to like manage everything and make everything go smooth. Like something that I could. But that was mostly that's not to me as a leader.
That's cool. I like that. Anybody else?
Well, for me, what makes a leader stand out for me is a leader who's not afraid to admit he's wrong. Because, sometimes in organizations you have managers or leaders, they're doing the wrong things and they don't want to admit when they are wrong or, in situations where they could correct themselves. So for me, that's what it means, that a leader that would stand out for me is someone like that, not being afraid to admit when they're wrong, owning up to their faults.
That's a great answer. So let's move on. Thank you to the two of you for contributing.
Growing up, we've all learned about the types of leaders and what they've done or contributed. Before we continue, can you guys do your very best impression of any one of these leaders?
If there's any actors in the class, this is your moment right now. Oh, yeah. Okay. We'll just move on then.
4 types of leaders are described based on their attention to vision and attention to action: the uninvolved, the doer, the dreamer, and the effective leader. Let's take a look. The leader who's low in both providing vision and stimulating action is uninvolved, not really a leader at all. The leader who's all action and little vision is a doer. He or she may be a hard worker and dedicated to the job and organization, but the doer is working blind. The dreamer, on the other hand, is good at providing the big idea with meaning for self and others. This leader may effectively inspire others with a vision, yet he or she is weak on executing strategic action. The vision in this case is only a dream, a fantasy, because it has little chance of ever becoming reality. To be an effective leader, one both dreams big and transforms those dreams into a significant strategic action, either through one's own activities or by hiring other leaders who can effectively execute the vision and the strategy.
As we've seen in the video, there are 4 types of leaders when it comes to strategic leadership. The uninvolved. That's a leader who is low both on providing vision and stimulating action. There's the doer. He is the leader who is all action and little vision. They may be a hard worker and dedicated to the organization, but they work blindly. Then there's your dreamer. The leader who is good at providing a big idea with meaning for self and others. They effectively inspire others with a vision, yet they are weak on implementing strategic action. The vision is only a dream, fantasy, because it has little chance of ever becoming a reality. Lastly, we have the effective leader. The leader who dreams big and transforms those dreams into significant strategic action, either through their own activities or by hiring other leaders who can effectively implement the vision and strategy. To determine strategic direction for the future, leaders are to look inward, outward, and forward. Leaders scan both the internal and external organizational environment to identify trends, threats, and opportunities for the organization. Meaning, looking at the organization's position, the intentions, visions, etc., that will be looking inward. They will also be looking at competitors, threats, and trends, which would be looking outwards and looking at what to do when thinking and combining both aspects, analyzing and making plans to use it to aid the business futuristically, which would be looking forward. Organizations need both a broad and inspiring vision and an underlying plan for how to achieve it. To decide and map a strategic direction, leaders try to develop industry foresight based on trends in technology, demographics, government regulations, values, and lifestyle that will help them identify new competitive advantages. Approaches to decision making: SWOT and 5-force analysis. Approach number 1, the SWOT approach. This is an approach leaders take in setting a course for the future using hard analysis. This situation analysis includes a search for SWOT, which is an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that affect organizational performance. Leaders using situation analysis to obtain external information from a variety of sources such as customers, government reports, suppliers, consultants, or association meetings. They gather information about internal strengths and weaknesses from sources such as budget, financial ratios, profit and loss statements, and employee surveys.
Hi, and welcome back. We know strategy analysis has two main branches: analysis of a firm's external environment and analysis of a firm's internal environment. In our previous lessons, we learned how to analyze the internal and external environment of a firm. SWOT is a famous framework that allows us to combine the two types of analysis. SWOT is sometimes referred to as an internal-external analysis. The acronym SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The first two, strengths and weaknesses, are related to a firm's internal environment, while the last two, opportunities and threats, consider its external environment. We can use a SWOT analysis when analyzing industries, companies, products, new initiatives, policies, or even people. It is a simple and useful framework that allows us to group and visualize strengths and weaknesses, and to identify potential threats and opportunities that exist in the external environment. In addition, the SWOT framework could be useful when you want to understand the areas in which your firm performs well, and the ones that need improvement. The four elements of SWOT analysis are usually placed in a table which looks something like this. Internal strengths and external opportunities are vertically paired as helpful elements, while internal weaknesses and external threats are paired as harmful elements. Right, so if we perform a company analysis under strengths, we would expect to see its core competences, the areas where the business excels and has a competitive advantage over competitors. An example of a firm's strength could be its strong brand recognition. Weaknesses are areas that need improvement. Such vulnerabilities place a company at a disadvantage when competing against other firms. Usually, the disadvantage results from other companies having a competitive advantage. An example of a weakness is higher cost structure. Opportunities can be seen as favorable factors existing in a company's external environment, in the industry where it operates, and have the potential to improve its current results and competitive positioning. Taking advantage of opportunities depends on how skilled a company's top management team is. To take advantage of an opportunity, the management must be able to recognize opportunities when they arise, and then act accordingly when the time is right. An example of an opportunity is the advent of a new technology the company can exploit to expand its product offering. The last of the four elements of SWOT analysis is threats. Threats arise in a company's external environment and might harm its current business. But if you can identify a threat, you can lessen its impact by taking precautions. An example of a threat is the entry of a strong competitor with access to advanced technology. This is a great overview of the SWOT framework. In our next lesson, we'll conclude the strategy module of the course by applying SWOT in practice. Thanks for watching. Hi.
Now that we understand what SWOT is and supposed to do, let's take a more in-depth look at it.
Okay, great. So in this lesson, our goal would be to apply the SWOT framework in practice. Shouldn't be that difficult, right? The company we'll examine is Starbucks, the well-known U.S. coffee company and coffeehouse chain. It was founded in Seattle in 1971 and operates in several countries around the world. Let's start with the company's strengths. First, almost everyone knows its brand, right? So it definitely has a strong brand recognition. Starbucks has been proclaimed the most recognized coffee brand in the world. Quite an advantage regarding other companies in the industry. The firm's brand is one offering of a differentiated product to customers, which is coherent with its strategy and pricing. Clients have expressed they love the atmosphere in Starbucks coffee houses. They can use free Wi-Fi and enjoy the coffee drinking experience to the fullest. The company owns thousands of outlets around the world, and its clients can find it even when traveling overseas. That's a strong advantage, as it ensures loyal clients can remain such even overseas. And finally, Starbucks supply chain management ensures the quality of coffee served to customers is excellent. The company chooses its suppliers carefully, which improves the quality of its products and ensures clients receive a super coffee experience. This is another choice in sync with its differentiation strategy. Okay, very good. Let's take off our rosy glasses and consider some of the firm's weaknesses. One could argue Starbucks offers the same product in all countries where it operates. It does not customize it according to the different tastes of people in different geographies. For some customers, this is an issue, and they prefer competitor products tailored to their specific geographical preferences. In addition, Starbucks has a premium price policy, which is not in line with most customers' expectations. Not all countries have enough middle and high-income class individuals who can afford to pay extra for their coffee. Weakness number 3 would be the high employee turnover that the chain's coffee shops have. It is difficult to serve coffee as a premium product when the company's baristas have been on the job for only a couple of weeks. In terms of opportunities, we can say the following. Starbucks can access new countries easily. It simply has to apply its existing business model in these new geographies. Emerging markets can be a great source of growth for the company. Starbucks has also entered agreements within the entertainment industry and partnered with movie-producing companies. That can be a great opportunity for the firm, too. One of the biggest threats for Starbucks is the saturation of the American market, which is where most of its outlets are located. Consumers are increasingly invested in healthier lifestyle, and some substitute products are better positioned to capture the attention of the health-conscious clientele. Okay, we'll stop here. This is what a SWOT analysis looks like in practice. The depth of the observations included in the analysis depends on the information we have about the company. I'm sure an industry practitioner would be capable to prepare a much deeper analysis. However, the important point is you now know how to perform a SWOT analysis on your own, and you can distinguish the important questions from the rest when it comes to analyzing a company. SWOT analysis is a great tool that allows us to visualize and concentrate on some of the most important topics when analyzing a company. This will do for now. Thanks for watching.
Approach number 2, the 5-force analysis. Now that we've heard about SWOT and how it can aid the decision-making process, let's have a look at approach number 2. The second formula that is used by leaders is the 5-force analysis developed by Michael Porter. He proposes that strategy is often the result of 5 competitive forces. Let's take a look. Number 1, potential new entrants into an industry. 2, the bargaining power of buyers. Number 3, the bargaining power of suppliers. And number 4, the threat of substitute products. And number 5, rivalry among competitors.
In 1979, Harvard Business Review published How Competitive Forces Shape Strategy by a young economist and associate professor, Michael E. Porter. The main purpose of Porter's 5 forces is to find a position in an industry where a company can defend itself against competitive forces or it can influence them in its favor. A strategist can analyze any market by rating each competitive force as high, medium, low and strength and rate as follows. If we look at the commercial airline industry worldwide, the 5 forces could be rated as follows. Industry rivalry among existing competitors is high as key airline companies compete closely and strongly for global market share. The threat of new entrants is seen as medium, since new entrants may be able to secure second-hand aircraft to establish budget airlines. However, securing airport infrastructure facilities and airline route access is difficult because of high government regulatory barriers. The threat of substitutes could also be seen as low, with other transportation alternatives not having the same speed, convenience and flexibility as air travel. The bargaining power of buyers could be rated as high as air passengers have a wide variety of airlines to choose from and shop for the best ticket price online to save money. The bargaining power of suppliers is high. Just 2 suppliers can satisfy the average requirements of today's commercial airliners, Airbus and Boeing. These 2 suppliers control the market. Overall, Based on the above analysis of Porter's 5 forces, we can conclude that the commercial airline industry is characterized by intense rivalry among airlines, fluctuating profitability, and little differentiation among competing airlines.
For the next section, let's look at the leader's impact, making a difference. As we learned about the leader's contribution, now we learn about their impact and the effect their contribution had. What impact does a leader have? A leader's greatest discretion is often over strategic vision and strategic action. Research has shown that strategic thinking and planning for the future can positively affect a company's performance and financial success. Another study has shown that as much as 44% of the variance in profitability of major firms may be contributed to strategic leadership. Studies found that leader succession was associated with improved profits and stock prices, and, in cases of churches, with improved attendance, membership, and donations. Although good economic conditions and industry circumstances play a part in improved performance for any organization, the top leader had impact beyond these factors. Overall, when research has been carefully done, top leader succession typically explains from 20% to 45% of the variance in organizational outcomes. It was also proven that the makeup of the top leadership group is the ability to exploit strategic actions. A team provides diverse aptitudes and skills to deal with complex organizational situations. In complex situations, an effective team may have a better chance of identifying and implementing a successful strategy, displaying an accurate interpretation of the environment, and of developing internal capability based on empowered employees and a shared vision. Without a capable and effectively interacting top leadership team, a company may not adapt readily in a shifting environment. To end it off, answer me this. When leaving an institution, what kind of impact would you like to say you received? What would you have liked to learn or had imprinted on you? What impact would you like to have as a leader? What would you like for your subordinates to see when your time with them has finished?
Okay, that was a lot of questions, but you all can choose any one that you see on the screen and just let us know your thoughts, opinions.
I'd like to answer my own group members' questions. I think an impact that I would like to mirror that I experienced from a leader would be one of a specific lecturer. I don't know if everybody here would know, but Miss Mitchell really impacted me and showed great leadership in the way that we just talked about through that sort of exchanging dynamic that we spoke about, where you understand and you take into consideration every level of the organization, your subordinates as well as those on your level and those above. Ms. Mitchell gave, I would say, a lot of vision, and she made us work very hard to impress because she had that clearly defined vision for us. She would keep us on track. And so that would, a lot of the time, I would say, motivate us and inspire us to work harder. And in that way, we could tell that she was invested in us as we were invested in the organization's mission. So I would say I would want to have an impact like that.
Thanks, Aaliyah. Anybody else? I would also like to answer the questions. What would your subordinates like to say when your time with them is finished? I would hope as a leader that my subordinates would say that I cared, because I feel like, especially coming out of a 2-year pandemic, a lot of leaders that I worked with gave us grace, and I would like to give my subordinates that same grace that I received. Like, sometimes people need to take a day to just gather themselves. Like, the work will get done, but their mental health or their physical health is more important than the goal that we're trying to reach, because we can't reach the goal if they are spread too thin or just not optimal in their participation. So if nobody else would like to contribute, I think we are finished here. If anybody has any questions, this is your time. Going once, going twice. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the presentation. That's it from us.